Hey guys, welcome back to another video. This week is it's going to be one of those unfiltered rants that I have. Most of the time, I carefully edit and sculpt out my videos over the course of over the course of the past 5 or so days. But this time is going to be more or less, it's going to be a mess of a rant because I wanted to talk about just YouTube in general. And look, I don't want to really beat around the bush here or kick a dead horse that's been dead for a long time, but we have to discuss just how YouTube has become what it is today. YouTube, and it shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone, that YouTube is just not what it used to be. I remember from like 2010 to 2013, YouTube's golden age was huge. YouTube Rewind was the thing. And YouTube Rewind used to consist of actual YouTubers that YouTube actually wanted to associate themselves with. Nowadays, their annual video is gone, and when it was still around, from 2017 to 2019, it was filled with corporations instead of people. It was filled with business interests, companies, and all these corporate hacks of people who have very little personality, but all the looks in the world to buy their way into the camera. So I don't really know what exactly I'm going to try and reiterate here, but YouTube culture has changed for the worse, and it screws over a lot of smaller YouTubers. Now, of course, when a company becomes a corporation, or at least when something as small as YouTube used to be back in 2005 becomes massive and successful, it doesn't become that way from good reasons, or even just from good business practices. It comes that way through screwing over little guys, and the little guys are us. So recently, one of my favorite YouTubers to watch, and I'm going to come out and say it, despite the fact that I know reaction channels are still controversial in YouTube, I kind of like them. I've always really been one of the earliest fans of reaction channels, ever since the earlier days of Two Girls, One Cup. That was one of my first exposures to the reaction format. But then it got, more stretched out and complex, and I'm going to make an entirely separate video next week about the culture of reaction channels because I think it's a fascinating topic to go over. But one of the best reaction channels, in my opinion, is a channel by the name of the Renegades, although their YouTube channel is currently called Renegade Media Group. That's because they're also looking to do other stuff besides just reaction channels. It's run by a guy, I don't think it's Nick. Maybe it is Nick. It'll be in the post-production text down below, but anyways, one of Nick's friends recently got a copyright strike for a reaction video he did to Markiplier's Try Not to Laugh challenges. And this represents just pure hypocrisy. Now, we could just move away from the reaction channel business for a moment here because there are many more examples. Corey Keshin, one of the biggest faces on the platform, has repeatedly gotten bullshit copyright strikes or his videos have been blocked, and YouTube does not help their big creators. Back in the early days when these sort of cracks began to form about what's copyright and what's not, or if this video getting struck down is fair, but this one isn't, what's fair and what's not as far as videos getting taken out for any reason, copyright, or maybe there's violence that shouldn't be shown on the platform. Back in the earlier days, it used to be just smaller channels that dealt with this bullshit, but then it became medium-sized channels, ones that had at least 1 million subscribers, and then it got to commentary channels, and then it got to big channels like the aforementioned Corey Keshin or Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, and all of them agree nowadays YouTube has said very little to them. Moist Critical, one of the greatest commentators of our generation, has openly said that he's had only a handful of conversations with Susie, and with good old Susie. But to me, I don't care how many conversations Susan Wazowski has with creators. Wazowski does it as a PR move instead of actually taking down notes. She constantly insists that it's not the case, but we all know how corporations work. And it's not like we're just now realizing it. At least me personally, I've realized this for years. Corporations and companies do not give a fuck about who you are. They do not care. You're just a number to them. Shit, I mean, we love to rip on companies for pretending to care about LGBTQ people during Pride Month, but is it at all a surprise? I mean, again, is it really that much of a surprise? Dude, companies, even some of the most progressive companies out there, sometimes they just put on the progressive facade to ease down the mob. In actuality, behind closed doors, they're dreaming about how they can screw over people who literally give them the money that keep their company running. So, in YouTube's case, they basically shoot down any small YouTuber who, and it doesn't matter who it is, it could be a reactor, it could be a music artist who also gets their own music copyrighted for bullshit reasons, because again, YouTube, for as much as they love to insist they've changed over the years, they don't actually do much for small creators or big creators. Nowadays, they've just openly admitted to their biggest creators like Jacksepticeye, Markiplier, PewDiePie, Goykeshin. They don't do anything. And that has, and you know what? Behind me is the words broadcast yourself. This is what YouTube used to be. Because of how fucked up the system has become nowadays under Susan Wojcicki's watch, you can't really broadcast yourself anymore. YouTube is not just something where you could swear like a sailor and you make money from it. No, nowadays, thanks to the New York Times and all these other corporations that want a massive piece of the pie, they don't want a small piece, they want at least 60%, not even 50%, 60% at least of the pie that us creators make. I have to literally get at least 1,000 subscribers at least just to apply for the very idea of making 10 cents off of my videos, which is bullshit. I also have to wait until I have 500 subscribers to have community tabs. To have the ability to post stuff on my community tab. Ooh, special little perks. You got 500 subscribers. Good job. You're finally worthy of something. Dude, you should give me that shit from the spot. I shouldn't have to earn my way to get the community, to have the ability to post stuff on my community tab. Because if my Twitter is deleted, then I can't even tell you guys what the fuck is happening until my next video. So everyone's left in the dark. So, I mean, YouTube has had some good improvements since Susan has taken over, but it's been such a clusterfuck because it's been an overwhelmingly negative reception, and it has nothing to do with the fact she's a woman. Of course, a lot of these corporations, in order to save their asses, when they go for the progressive position, they always go, well, people just hate me because I'm black, Latino, Hispanic, a woman. In actuality, it's because you're incompetent. Dude, that CEO at Blizzard who claimed he was one of the most progressive, we're running a progressive organization. Shocker, he wasn't. He was running an absolutely horrific organization with a toxic culture filled to the brim with sexual harassment and sexual assaults. So, sadly, most of these companies do not actually like to hear criticism. YouTube does not like to hear criticism. And the idea of broadcasting yourself is long gone. So, this is just a rant overall about just how YouTube has just been so, YouTube just copyright strikes anybody for any reason. Dude, if my video gets copyright striked in the next few weeks or even the next few years, because here's the funny thing about all this, a lot of these high-profile incidences of YouTubers getting copyright strike, whether it's, music channels, reaction channels, or even gaming channels, or even, times where gamers react to, videos like PewDiePie, Markiplier, and Jacksepticeye, these happen years later. Years after the fact. After they were originally posted. It fucking blows my mind that YouTube still thinks that it can get away with this stuff. But unfortunately, we're just peasants. We're numbers to them. We are nothing more than pawns in their game. We are the peasants that overlook the throne, the golden throne that we helped create for them. Like many things that become popular, it's created by either the poor or the middle class, but is immediately stolen by the rich. Now, that's as far as I'm going as far as any sort of political or social metaphors, but you get the point. YouTube is just not a place where you broadcast yourself anymore. It's a place where you have to be careful with yourself. And that's not what free speech is about. Fuck, that's not even what, YouTube should be about. YouTube was a place where you could, at one point, you could, as I mentioned earlier, you could swear like a sailor, and you could just make money, because back then that was comedy. Nowadays it's having to tread carefully, and as far as reaction videos go, you have to tread carefully. You have to censor out swears, despite the fact the original video you're reacting to doesn't have any censors whatsoever. I mean, Charmix left the platform because he got chased to no end based on the censorship that he had to receive. It alienated a lot of his original fans. But YouTube is just not a place where you can broadcast yourself anymore. And that goes for everyone. It used to be just like this highly controversial it used to be a highly controversial topic about how bad YouTube has gotten, and the main examples were reaction videos and commentator channels. How times have changed in just 6 years since that argument really started taking off, and then immediately crashed and burned within like 2-3 years. Because, as it turns out, incompetence can evolve just as much as competency. So, I know the overwhelming majority of the things I said today probably didn't make any sense, mostly because my sentences were like all over the place. But YouTube, I've started really just thinking about how ridiculous it is that just to do simple things like post on your community tab, you have to have 500 subscribers. I don't know what perk it is, but I swear there's like another perk that you need at least 100 subscribers to unlock. Now, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I'm having false memory here, but it's upsetting that YouTube used to just be a free platform where you could do everything. I remember when the biggest controversy about Google owning YouTube back in the day was Google Plus being shoved down our throats. Today, it has since been deceased for at least like almost 5 years or so, and because no one really wanted to use it. It's just, I wish we could go back to those days of controversy. I really wish we could just, go back to those days of controversy, because that seems like a lot more of a, it's a better time. More simpler, better time. Especially compared to the clusterfuck that Susan Wojcicki has just, she's mangled something that used to be very beautiful, and she needs to resign immediately. YouTube is not a place where you can broadcast yourself anymore. You have to check yourself. You have to censor yourself. You have to look over your shoulders to make sure no one's going to copyright strike you in the future. You're basically making creators live in fear. But you've heard this argument repeatedly on so many different channels. Way more channels that are, way more channels than I can count, and channels that are infinitely more popular than me. But I just wanted to make this unfiltered rant because, in the past 7 days, I've seen several creators. It's not just the one of the Renegades members, which I think is Nick. I think that's the name. But sorry, not Nick. Sorry, Chad, I think, is the name of the Renegade member. But also several different other creators that I don't have enough time to mention because I'm kind of running short on time. But I just, there's been several controversies that have been happening in the past several days regarding YouTube's policy, and sadly, this has just become like the usual. Like, basically, this has just become a background noise for YouTube HQ. It just shows you that despite the fact we all still love this platform, we hate how it's being run. But they're not going to change, because Susan's answer to the criticism is she's a woman. Yes, you are a woman, but that doesn't explain how you ran how you ran YouTube so incompetently. Although, because Susan Wojcicki is a big believer in equality, I will give her this. She shows that women can be just as incompetent as men at the executive level when it comes to tech companies. So, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys grabbed like at least a tub of popcorn and started watching this while you ate your popcorn, because this was definitely entertaining for you guys, but not for me, because this is just something that fucking, it grinds. It really fucking irritates me, man. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next Saturday, hopefully with a much more positive video.